Bach in Baltimore was founded in 1988 and is completely dedicated to performing the complete works of Bach. And we are knocking on the door of finishing that project. We've performed over 160 of the 200 plus cantatas. We've performed all the motets, the passions, most of the Lutheran masses, the B minor mass, of course, many times, most of the instrumental concertos, all the Brandenburg concertos, and so on. And so we like to reach out and play other music by other great Baroque composers, and from time to time also go a little further afield and look at the music that followed. And in general, when we look at music that followed Bach's generation in the classical or romantic periods, we like to look for music that has a relationship to Bach. And Brahms, there are two romantic composers who are known for having played homage to Bach verbally and also in their musical language again and again. And one of those two is Brahms. And so Bach in Baltimore will be doing its first performance of a Brahms German Requiem very soon. And I had the great privilege of studying for about 15 years with one of the world's leading choral conductors. He was, I think, maybe the greatest Bach conductor in the world, and also a great authority on many other composers. And this is him, Helmut Rilling. And I have in my hand a book he wrote just on the musical language of Brahms' German Requiem. And it's from my study of the German Requiem with Rilling that many of my ideas come, and I'm very grateful to him for that. Brahms' title for the piece is interesting. He called it a German Requiem, and not so much because it was for the German people, but to differentiate it from a traditional Latin Requiem as found in the Latin funeral mass of the Roman Catholic Church. I think he called it a German Requiem simply because he was German and he wrote it in the German Latin language at a time when the requiems that were liturgical would be in Latin. So to differentiate the language more than the if you will, the nationality. And it's very interesting what funeral text he chose. He made a point of not choosing liturgical texts. In fact, he wrote that he wanted his piece to be for all humanity. As I read in one of my many textbooks on Baroque music about Brahms, this little quote, it says, "Brahms in character was honest and sincere in manners. He was plain spoken. He never married. To him, art was life." That phrase, "to him, art was life," I think is an essential thing to understand Brahms. And I think nothing perhaps better personifies Brahms than his German Requiem. He wrote it over a period of years, beginning in 1857, and it wasn't performed until 1868. It's a 7-movement piece. The final movement that he wrote, which he inserted into the 5th spot in the overall piece, he added upon the death of his mother. And again, that's his idea of art was life. He wrote this comforting, affirming piece, and particularly the 5th movement in memory of his mother. And to him, that was the way to celebrate his love for her and his love for life and to find comfort. So let's look at the beginning of the piece. The beginning of the piece uses 2 biblical texts. The first text is from Matthew chapter 5, verse 4. And Matthew chapter 5, verse 4, in chapter 5, we have the Sermon on the Mount, in which Jesus prays or gives out the Beatitudes. And this text is on the second of the Beatitudes. The second Beatitude is, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." The second text for this opening movement is from Psalm 126, in the middle of the psalm, verses 5 and 6. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Who goeth forth and weepeth and beareth precious seed shall doubtless return with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. So movement 1 is remarkable for the orchestration. It uses 3 distinct cello parts, 2 viola parts, 2 French horns, and a little bit later some woodwinds. The violins do not play at all. So it's all, if you will, darker colors. And it begins. So the first thing you hear, of course, is this repeating note, this recurring quarter note. It repeats incessantly, and it's like the deep ringing bell chime you might associate with a church bell or another bell ringing for a funeral. By the way, it's a little tangent, but the ringing of bells was understood as a way to keep evil spirits away. So that's why churches ring bells as a person is taken from the church into the cemetery, to keep evil spirits away. But so this is reminiscent of that. And now here comes the cello. Another cello. Viola. And it's just enormously expressive. There is a kind of sense of profound sorrow and sadness that permeates this piece. And after just a remarkably beautiful introduction with these low strings, the choir comes in. Now, what would you expect? If you don't know the piece, you would expect them to pick up those ideas, wouldn't you? But they don't. This is what they do. The choir comes in and they sing the word blessed like this. A cappella, no instruments. This beautiful, almost halo of blessedness. Blessed, blessed, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall have comfort. Now that all low tessitura, here we are, Brahms has, as I said, he had some Bachian thoughts about him. So after this beautiful blessed are they, for they shall have comfort, he has a kind of a syncopated entrance, and he leaps up a little bit. Yes, indeed, it's very affirmative. For they sings. For they shall have comfort. And then a beautiful finish. They shall have comfort. And the orchestra comes back, and again the beautiful blessed chords. Twice. And we're off into this beautiful, beautiful piece. So we have these orchestration choices, this beautiful sense of blessedness, this affirmative sense that they indeed shall have comfort. And then comes the second phrase within the text. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. You could absolutely think Bach wrote this. For they shall sow, he has. We have these, we call them, in Baroque music, we call them twosies. Da-dum, da-dum. In Baroque music, we call that a lament tune. And the voices sing in pairs. And above it, again, the sopranos come in and they affirm, yep, this really indeed will be the case. They start gently, and then go up a little bit, and then a little more, and then a little more, and then again, they sing this wonderfully affirming music. And against it, again, the orchestra is mostly the low strings, although at this moment we get some woodwinds coming in. But again, our violins are waiting their turn patiently. The text of the opening movement, it says, they that shall be comforted. But in fact, the entire German Requiem is absolutely deeply comforting. Movement after movement gets at this idea of comfort. It's emotionally impactful, and I find it completely unforgettable. If you read through textbooks on romantic music, this piece is considered one of the most important oratorical pieces in the entire Romantic period, and so, if you will, therefore, in the history of choral music. It's a very, very important piece of 7 movements, and without a doubt, it's a great treasure. And so we hope you will stay in touch with Bach in Baltimore. Of course, we do lots of Bach, and we'd love to see you at our Bach concerts. But when we do the German Requiem, we would love to see you with us, and you can find out about it on our website, bachinbaltimore.org.